Thank you. We have apologies from the following non-members of the board. Councillor Raphael.
Thank you. I've also got apologies from Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Chowdhury and Councillor Homer. And Councillor Hard. So item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. I am happy to put them forward.
And I'm happy to second it.
Thank you. Any matters arising, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'd just like to point out on page either 37 or 36, it's actually reference to the Corporate Peer Challenge Action Plan. I'm very pleased to inform members that an element in there regarding the member development is already underway, and we're progressing through the recommendations and the progress required. Thank you.
Brilliant, and thank you for taking that forward. Any other matters arising? No. Okay, we'll move on to items 4, if we could, which is leaders' announcements. So I do have a few announcements to make, so please bear with me. Firstly is the King's birthday honours, and as ever, I think we should recognise those in Wychavon that have been afforded an honour by His Majesty. So it was great to see that we had a number of residents recognised in the King's birthday honours, namely Richard Hayhow from Droitwich for services to the deaf and hard of hearing, Jeff Sanson from Claines, he is actually an old schoolmate of mine, and his was for the support for the farming community. And Karen Blanchfield, who we all know, doesn't actually live in Wychavon, but has been a great support and given great service to Wychavon by going into the schools and educating with regard to litter picking and tidiness. So we send them our congratulations. Secondly is the South Worcester Development Plan review, and you will have seen a press release recently circulated. The planning inspectors have indicated the South Worcester Development Plan review is likely to pass a key stage, allowing it to move forward to formal adoption. The SWDPR was subject to public examination during hearings in March, and I thank those that went along, which scrutinised the policies and evidence the plan it's based on. A final session takes place in September, after which the independent inspectors appointed to consider the plan will release their full report. Item 3 is Worcester 6. Worcester 6 celebrated their 10th anniversary. It's a leading industrial estate that has been at the forefront of Wychavon's economic strategy, and more than 62% return has been achieved on the initial investment. So it's become a key part of Wychavon and our strategy. I just wanted to list some of the businesses in Worcester 6 because they kind of show the significance and the importance of our area. So one is Material Solutions, which is owned by Siemens. And we understand that this is Europe's largest 3D printing facility. They have invested over 50 million in the fit out of the facility and print parts for high-tech, high-value industry, including Formula One cars. Zwick Roll, a materials testing facility which tests the robustness of parts for a number of industries. This is their UK headquarters and our only standalone office building on the park. And you will see that a number of these businesses originate from Germany as well. There seems to be a trend. Kimmel, healthcare supplier. Victoria Carpet, supplier for high quality carpets. They supply the royal households, including Buckingham Palace. Colomira, world-renowned bathroom parts manufacturer and supplier. Ionos, an independent data center with office facility. Sierra Engineering, manufacturers of high-precision instruments and systems for various industries, including automotive, processors, and environmental modeling, medical diagnostics, semiconductor, and scientific measurement and analysis. Bidfood, chilled and frozen food supplier to the catering and healthcare industry, inward investment into Worcestershire. And then finally, you'll see one that's being developed on the way into Worcester now, which is one of the largest offices to have been developed in Worcestershire itself for some considerable time, and that is Mytech. It's their European headquarters, manufacturing software, services, and engineering for the supply of joist and roof joists systems to predominantly the residential sector, one of the largest industrial buildings to be developed and 200 plus jobs. So that's all good news and shows the real dynamics of our economy here in Wychavon. 4 is the LGA conference, which a few of us attended in Liverpool last week. Councillor Middleborough, Councillor Boatwright Green, Councillor Crump, our Chief Executive and myself. Much of the discussion surrounded the local government review. The event was very helpful in developing our knowledge and networking with councils that have already gone through the process and those about to. So as we continue that discussion on LGR, I'm sure some of those discussions and some of the contacts will help in terms of how we go forward. Number 5 is Councillor Aaron Powell. I'm sure you will agree with me that it's very sad to see Aaron leave Wychavon. He has given great service and input to our council over the years and has been a terrific local councillor to his residents. You will have read that Aaron has taken up a new politically restricted job, and we wish him well and thank him for all his hard work. Wychavon Awards. I wanted to, you probably all have seen this, but I wanted to make a point that collectively we see what our staff have been achieving. We know Wychavon pushes above its weight. We know it's a really good council. And this is evidenced, in terms of the successes. So first is planning. Our joint planning service, that's with Malvern, has been recognised as the best in the West Midlands after a year of driving up standards and delivering change. Malvern Hills and Wychavon's planning team won Planning Authority of the Year for the region at the prestigious Royal Town Planning Institute Awards for Planning Excellence 225, held on the 27th of June. Then the next 2 are in our housing team, often not really heralded, but they do a really good work day in, day out. So a second award is the empty homes. Wychavon has made a significant impact in addressing the challenge of empty homes in the area, winning 3 prestigious awards at the Empty Homes Network Awards, held on the 21st of May in Birmingham. These awards include the Rising Star Award, which was proudly given to Wychavon's Empty Homes Officer, Anne-Marie Bishop, the Best Use of Media Award, and a highly commended recognition for the meeting of the Challenge Award. And then homelessness, a life-changing scheme to help give homeless young people in Wychavon and Malvern Hills hope for the future, has been highly commended at a national awards ceremony. Developing skills for independent living is the focus of the initiative, which was shortlisted in the Innovation in Housing category for the Municipal Journal's Achievement Awards 2025. Judges at the London held awards ceremony described the council's entry as demonstrating the impact local authorities can achieve on young people's lives through sustainable supported housing partnership working. So I think we all congratulate and thank our Wychavon team for that terrific work. 7, alluded to it before, was the local government review, and you'll have seen the outcome in the press release of the engagement work that's been undertaken. More than 4,200 people across Worcestershire, and organisations have taken part in the survey seeking views on how local councils should be reorganised. I would like to thank everyone for taking part and our own team for taking the lead on the survey, showing again how we work effectively across all local authorities. Got to remember, our team worked with the other 5 districts and the county council in order to put that survey together and to get agreement. So no mean feat, and our team are achieving that. The week before last, we held a great session with town and parish councils, and I would like to say there was a similar result to the one that has been provided by the residents. And in the straw poll taken that evening, it was kind of 60-40, 70-30. There was a similar result, members were also on the call with Mutual Ventures last week, and progress has been made on their report, which has been commissioned by the 5 district councils. Please remember the special council meeting on the 3rd of September, when we will consider all this information and our way forward. We didn't ask for this change, but we know that we want to Wychavonise the new unitary and thereby give the best services for our residents and the best opportunities for our staff. And you'll see me use the phrase Wychavonise quite regularly when we talk about local government reorganisation, because it's how we can try and influence whatever the new unitary ends up being. Neighbourhood plans. We know that the government has pulled some of the money with regard to neighbourhood plans, but you'll know that within our promises we put money forward in the neighbourhood plans. So we are looking to support development of neighbourhood plans with our own budget to move forward. And we believe that neighbourhood plans play a significant role in the local government review and making sure that we get to support our local areas. And then 9 is major projects, and I will look at continually updating the council with regard to major projects. So Droitwich Leisure Centre, the new car park has now been completed with more than 250 spaces, all of which have been used during a football tournament, which is great news. And customers of the leisure centre are very pleased to be able to use this new facility. The works on the new learner pool, reception area and wider refurbishment of the centre are due to start at the end of the month. There will be phased closures during the next 12 months, but our officers are working with Wychavon Leisure to mitigate the impact on customers, while work on both new and refurbished areas is undertaken. The new skate park and pump track will follow during the next 12 months. The Lido, we are working with the design following the public consultation and expect to start work in the autumn next year to ensure that we do not have both our pools closed at the same time. The health corridor, good progress is being made on the health corridor to enable improved access from Ladywood Lock to Salwarp and to the town centre of Droitwich. The path will be further enhanced with 3 accessible benches and new directional signage. We're also exploring improvements to the entrance of Coney Meadow. The works are anticipated to be completed before October 2025. The Raven Hotel, which is very contentious among many people. The final roof works in relation to the court order requirements are currently being undertaken to include painting over the graffiti. This should be completed by early August, at which time we will invoice the owner and consider our next steps. Evesham Riverside Centre. Officers continue to work with Homes England with the aim to secure a grant to purchase the site in September. We will then bring a report to Council to agree the purchase and to consider next steps in this game-changing project. The Roundhouse building, Evesham, which is a new one that's come into our view really since NatWest said they were pulling out of Evesham. We understand work on the building has commenced with contractor signs and a new scaffold tower being in place. We have a meeting arranged towards the end of July for NatWest officers to meet with management team to discuss the future of the building. Pershaw, we are part way through the process of the purchase of Pershaw Motor Group units, exploring opportunities for full site assembly. Officers will be bringing ideas to members in the next 6 months as to how to propose to develop the site in the future. And that is a game-changer site in terms of the town prospectus, so we want to make sure it's an impactful building as people come from the south into Pershaw. And the final area of announcement is Wychavon Community Stars. And this is something our community funding panel have really developed, so I thank all of them in trying to bring this forward. And it enables people in the community or ourselves to recognise people that have put in a lot of great work and made a real difference in their community. They can nominate them online for a Wychavon Community Star, and this is an all-year-round programme. It's not one event, it rolls right through the year. So it's to recognise anybody when something important happens. And what will happen is either the chairman of the council or significant others, is that the right phrase, will go out and present the star to the individual and let them know why they've been recognised in such a way. It was in the Wychavon magazine, so you will have seen it and help the publicity of it, but also there will be a flyer in your pigeonhole to help promote it within your areas and to try and gain people to nominate. So please do promote it. It's about putting goodwill across Wychavon and really recognising people that have gone that extra mile. Very worthy, and I thank the Community Funding Panel for developing that. And on that, I'll close my leader announcements. So, Mel, is there any public question time?
No, we have no questions.
So we will move on to the agenda items. Item 6 is the former police station in Pershore, and I'll pass to Councillor Stokes.
Yes, again, thank you, Leader. I would like to thank Jeanette Beckett, who is Head of Property, to bring in this innovative and commercially attractive refurbishment proposal to the Executive Board. The report requests an additional amount of £565,000 to be added to the funds already allocated from the UK SPF and the Public Sector Decarbonisation Fund. Now, this decarbonisation fund has already been withdrawn, and we were fortunate to be able to secure £145,000 for the scheme. The proposal is to bring to life the redundant area of a public asset. This area was always and remains part of the public realm, and it is semi-linked to the civic centre. The commercial interest in having a suite of offices and meeting rooms is a good use of our assets to potentially return an office market rental income of approximately £30,000 to £40,000 per annum. I would advise that Councillor Della has fought strongly for housing on this site. However, the site was always a public sector asset, and the commercial offering, combined with the physical and metaphorical link between Wychavon and any other local authority requirements, resulted in an office suite proposal rather than housing. The car parking for existing staff and any new staff will need to be managed, but car parking is going to be an issue regardless of whether it was commercial or residential. But with commercial, there is an opportunity for free evening parking. So I am pleased to accept any questions, and I propose the recommendations laid out in 2.1 to 2.4 inclusive on pages 33 to 34.
Thank you. And I am happy to second this motion. In terms of the police station, I think if you look at the plans, it is so well intended in terms of the open plan office upstairs and the meeting rooms downstairs. So it kind of future-proofs in many ways, but also from an economic perspective, I know it's something that's very popular out there with the business community. So I'm happy to second. So we'll take any questions.
Thank you. Just it gives me the opportunity to ask a question about car parking. And I'm delighted we're going ahead with refurbishing the police station. I think that's the right thing to do. But we do know there is a problem of capacity of car parking in Pershore as a whole, not just in the civic centre area. And given that we're at a time when we're thinking about the best use of our assets, I do believe that somewhere in Pershore, either we need to find space, which I don't expect we will find, for car parking, or we need to have a deck higher somewhere, anywhere but King George's Field area. And I would just like to put that on the list of things you're thinking about, if we may.
Thank you. I think that's a point well made. So thank you. Councillor Charlie Tucker.
Yes, it's a couple of points. I find this welcome in one way, but raises a big question mark in my mind in another way, and that is this the project to be undertaking with the uncertainty over local government review? It does seem to be a bit of a gamble to be able to say that we ought to be putting money into further office use at the time when we don't even know whether Wychavon's offices will be used by the new authority. So, perhaps you could expand a little bit on the thinking there. I'm sure you have done a fair bit of thinking. But as somebody who's had quite a bit of discussion on various times with Vic, for instance, about this building, I often wondered whether a use that should be considered would be as a hotel within the town. And I know the existing building doesn't perhaps lead itself to that, but with a sympathetic extension, I mean, if we're spending 1.2 million on it, it seemed to me that it should be possible to consider extending that and making something which Pershore does need very much, which is a new hotel. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Liz. Yes, it was well made. I do agree that any help regarding car parking is always required, because I live in the town, so I'm familiar with that. With Charles's question, it does actually relate. I mean, this particular project has been through many iterations and how and why and what is the best for the town. And I think this is an absolutely brilliant opportunity. I mean, we must remember that it's commercially attractive. These offices are actually commercially attractive to the commercial side of Pershore Town. There has been an impact assessment done, and the recommendation or the idea for a hotel is perfectly valid, but it's part of the public asset, and it is linked to Wychavon as a site by stairs and by a walkway. So there would actually need to be substantial changes to endorse it to be a hotel. So I hadn't really considered a hotel as an option, but I believe the commercial side and the office suite is a generous and a sensible way forward. Thank you.
Councillor Boatwright Green.
Firstly, can I just say I'm massively welcome that this building is going to be coming back online. I know I've been on the record saying I'd love to have a police station there, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that's not going to happen anytime soon. I also need to thank Vic for my architecture lesson, because I didn't realise it had been, was it Children's Services back when it was part of County Hall. So I assume one of the things that can happen with this building is obviously we could make some money out of it. We do have a massive shortage of office space in Pershore. It's one of the biggest issues we have in terms of actually trying to get businesses into town. I completely understand that. But I'm assuming one of the other things we could do is if there is, when reorganisation happens, there is the option to keep it in-house if we need to.
In essence, it's commercially viable, and whether that be a public sector cousin or commercial enterprise, I'm not quite sure. But it's always good to keep all doors open.
And I would say yes. I agree with you. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I think in general I would support the idea of doing this. I mean, you know, there's an intuitive argument for keeping the Wychavon estate together. I think Wychavon is the right place actually for any future authority to hold itself going forward, whether it's South Worcestershire or whether it's the whole of Worcestershire. I think we're the only place really that has a viable and decent chamber and also has a large campus to go with it. So expanding it in preparation for that decision, I think would be good. The problem is that we don't have that decision just yet. And my slight concern is that I'm not sure I would agree with the description that it's commercially attractive. I mean, we're talking about getting back between £30,000 and £40,000 on a 1.1 million investment. So it's a 28-year payback relative to the 6-year payback we're going to get on item 7. So it's not necessarily commercially attractive from that point of view. And I'm not sure that it's really commercially attractive from the point of view of the open rental market, because if it was, why has it been empty for 10 years? Is that simply because we just sat on our hands and didn't know quite what to do with it? Or was it because there wasn't a long line of bidders coming forward and saying, I want that building, please sell it to me, you know, I need the office space. So somewhere between these two is the truth. My feeling is it would be worth our while having early discussions with the County Council now to sort of try and figure out what is the future for its estate. Is it going to go ahead and rebuild a new county hall on the county hall site? That seems very unlikely to me. And if it's not going to be that, then let's try and winkle out of them a way forward, the only practical way forward, rather than just letting things drift would be my suggestion. If we get that say-so, if we get that agreement, then I think this is the right thing to do. It's a long payback period, but that's okay if we're going to be here for 27 years, which I'm sure the future unitary will be. But if we haven't got that, then I think it's quite a lot of money to spend on something where the commercial market doesn't seem to really justify it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. I do disagree with you. It is commercially attractive, and there is a desperate need in Pershore for office space of good quality, especially with car parking around it. So it's actually quite a brilliant location for any office suite, and I would say it's attractive to any commercial venture, and certainly attractive to our cousins at County or whichever unitary coming forward. And I would absolutely endorse both parties coming to the table to discuss any rental agreements. And so I do think we do need to have an option open for anybody coming forward. It is an update or refurbishment on an existing asset. We can't just let that asset go. It costs us £27,000 a year to keep it mothballed. So we do need to make some or generate some income from it, and whether that be through the unitary or whether that be through commercial. But I do disagree with you. I do believe it is commercially attractive. Thank you.
Councillor Middlebury.
Thank you, Leader. Picking up on this, I think it's important that in the concept terms of reorganisation, we, as Wychavon, don't stagnate in terms of our thoughts. And I think this shows that we're not stagnating. It is commercially viable, and it's commercially viable in the ways that Emma has said, but also I believe it's commercially viable in the terms of whatever the unitary authority is, because what we're actually putting in place are more office accommodation within this campus. And this campus, I think, will be attractive for the unitary authorities. We can talk to the existing county council, but whatever they do is not binding on the future. So I think, are doing the right thing to have offices which, either at the commercial side or probably significantly, the new unitary authority can walk straight into. And I think that will be good for Pershore, actually, because if you keep employees in Pershore, it's good for Pershore High Street, it's good for the shops on Pershore High Street. Yes, it's a shame it's not a police station, but I know there have been 4 police stations during my time within Pershore, and there is a facility which is very good in this building. We don't go into police stations now to say, oh, could you tell us where Three Springs Road is? 40 years ago we did that, didn't we? We've all got sat-navs and we get on, and we don't need to go to police stations. We need to contact the police, but not go to police stations.
Thank you. Any further questions at all? I quite agree that employees, it will be good for the economy of Pershore. I think that's a really good point. But I do also agree that the county council are already voting because they try and come to this campus all the time for its meetings, but only go elsewhere, it seems, when they can't get their meetings here. So it's already as the place of choice, and we will just make it even more the place of choice, because it will help that evolution of Wychavon into the unitary in one way or another. Okay, can we take a vote, please? All those in favour?
That's unanimous.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item.
Hello, I'd like to propose the Civic Centre panels. As we know, we've got solar panels already on this building, but we're now looking to maximise the number of panels we can have, and we've had a survey and we know we can maximise it. It's an amazing paper, as Councillor Day has already said, about saving money. It's not just about saving money, it's about offsetting carbon, which means that 21% reduction in what carbon comes from this building when we have those panels in full use. It's going to cost us £250,000, but within 6 years we get the payback, and after that we should be earning money off these lovely solar panels. So I hope you all support what I think is a green initiative and a worthy initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. To second, Councillor Middlebury.
Thank you, Leader. I'm delighted to actually second it. We did the solar panels some years ago. we've had a full survey done, because I think those people who've had solar panels done, there's a lot of work other than just purchasing the solar panels to get done, the structure of the building. And I was pleased to see that we'd use Midlands Net Zero Hub to provide that support. Again, it's important that we use these organisations that are out there to assist our officers in moving us forward as an investment. And again, it will make it more attractive in terms of running costs for whoever comes to this building in the future. And that's how I second it.
Brilliant, thank you. Any questions from the Exec Board or members? Councillor Charlie Tucker.
Charles Tucker, if you don't mind, sir. Okay. Yes, I fully support this, and I do think it's a really forward-looking prospect. The only question, well, I am fully in favour of it, and I do think that the payback is good. Once in 6 years, that's really very good. But my question is, do we get any central funding from this? Do we get like the old feed-in tariffs? Is there any funding coming through now as a result of generating the electricity? Thank you.
Dean Ober. Ian, thank you.
Not on this one. This is going to be totally utilised by the building through batteries. So we're not expecting to put it back into the grid.
Okay, any further questions? No? All those in favour?
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, 24-25 budget outturn. Councillor Stokes.
Yes, thank you. The budget outturn is essentially the end result of a budget period. What did we stick to budget or not? Where and how much are we varying? And what we need to do is know what the differences are for next year's planning. Table 48 the table on page 48 shows the areas of underspends against the budget and any overspends. A total reduction in spend against the budget for the year shows a reduction of spend of just over £3 million. Each service area of people, place and environment and the central costs have produced a saving while not minimising any services. Also, there's been £3 million additional income in the business rates collection fund. I was obviously pleased to see the additional revenue, but I have asked Alice, and she has agreed to do so, to put an indicative note on any budget revisions during the next year to show what the likelihood of the business rate collection fund will be at that point during the year, because obviously having a sudden $3 million into the account does look as though we didn't know what was actually happening. However, we can put an indicative figure in to identify the business rates coming forward, but it's obviously not identified until the true year end, but we can have an indicative figure. So these savings have contributed to earmarked reserves of just over 10 million, which was more than 5 million than we'd budgeted for, and a general reserve of 2.8 million. Again, this is 1.6 million pound more than we budgeted from even the November budget. And I would actually just like to thank our officers and the audit committee in making savings without reducing services. And now that's the critical statement. These budgeted savings are absolutely done without risking the service. And it is a pleasure to propose the recommendations in 2.1 on page 47.
Thank you. And I'm happy to second, but this is a really good position. So like you, I thank all the team that's been involved. And there's some interesting areas if you read through the paper. 3.6, the council made 206,000 more in car parking charges than expected. We provide parking services for other district councils, such as Wychavon, Stratford, Redditch, Bromsgrove, North Warwickshire, Telford and Wrekin. And this has provided the bulk of the additional income. So, yeah, we support our residents, but we actually provide good service for wider afield where we know we've got good service and we can provide income. But beyond that as well, applying for grants, and our team is superb in applying for grants, whether that's maximising on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, Biodiversity Net Gain, homeless prevention grants, and ensuring that, you know, where necessary, we're working the projects at the right time to incur the right budgetary measures. So I'm very happy to second. Any questions at all? Councillor Liz Tucker.
You mentioned grants. I was noticing that there is still left in the pot, or was it 246k? Is this because we only have a once a year decision system, in which case we could open up for another bite later in the year, or is it because people don't know enough about the availability of the grants?
Could I just ask Alice to come in on that, because it's not something I've looked into on this particular paper, but obviously.
Is it okay if I pick that up, Chair? Sorry, I was just looking over to Alice. It's the 246, I take it, on page 48, around the community. Is that the 246,000 underspent on grants to voluntary and community bodies? Is that the one you're talking about? Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to check that's where you were. That's the figure you're talking about. So there's a combination. Some of it could be that some of the grants haven't yet been allocated because projects haven't come forward, either because they've put forward the grant application that's been agreed, but the actual work won't carry on till the following year. So that may be one of the reasons. And otherwise, it's not that I don't think that people haven't known about it. We've had quite a significant amount of grants given out, and I think that community groups have just been developing ideas. Not necessarily that they don't know about it.
I mean, we all know there is a crying need in a lot of the communities, and it would be nice to think that we spent up our budget each year.
So we have got the fact that we'll use it in future years as well. I'll carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Day.
Just two questions. So on 310, the licence income was down by 105k. I just wondered if anybody could explain why that was. And it's clear it's in relation to taxis, but it doesn't sound like we've had fewer taxis, does it? I don't know.
If I can, Chair, we'd have to get that in writing from WRS if that's okay, because that service being delivered by WRS themselves. We don't have some of that level of detail.
I've spent a day learning all about licensing, so I'm very keen on finding out about taxis. And then the other thing on 318, I mean, I think, I think overall our position is fantastic in terms of our overall finances, no question about it. I guess with Charlie Homer not being here, I feel obliged to sort of focus our attention on the things that aren't happening. So number one, the user route to the valley, been outstanding for a long while. Many years, so it would be great if some focus could be done on that. My point being, financially not spending money doesn't mean to say that we're doing a good job, but looking down that list, I feel like we are doing a good job, because all of the rest of those items I think have got good explanations behind them. The only one that I think we do need to do more on is the first one. Thanks.
And that's a valid point, because that's been there for a long time, and I think we all know we've tried in earnest to try and move it forward, but we are dependent on county, and if they don't have the resource or the capacity, then there's little we can do in trying to push. Maybe with the unitary, that's something we can achieve, but it is needed, so we will keep the pressure on for that. Councillor Charles Tucker.
Thank you, Leader. Well, I know we're going way back. I remember talking to various treasurers at different times, and I was always told that underspending was only slightly better than overspending. And there's an awful lot of underspending here, which of course is on the right side, but it does beg the question, did we get the budget right in the first place? 8 items where the substantial underspending. Now, I know that, for instance, the Ukraine scheme is funded externally, so that's perhaps a slightly different element. But to have a £3 million underspend, I think does certainly raise questions, and Chris Day has highlighted that, so I won't say any more about it. But £3 million underspend, what happens to that £3 million now? Does it just go into revenue balances, or can it be transferred into capital and be used on schemes such as the garage site in Pershaw, which is crying out for regeneration and is as you know, a game-changer site? Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And you're quite right. We don't want to underspend either, because it's public money. We want to make sure it's bringing value. So it's a point well made. I'll pass to Councillor Stokes.
Exactly. I find myself agreeing with you, Charles. The underspends in my eyes are exactly the same as an overspend. It's just a pleasurable to say it's an underspend. However, that does mean to say that there was some sort of situation that resulted in an underspend, and how that forecast was created. So budgets are only ever made on best estimates. They can only ever be made on best estimates, and that goes on the previous year. So you can only establish what you're going to spend based on previous year's expenditure and what you're forecasting to expend. So you can plan, and you can only plan to the best of your knowledge or the information available at that particular time. The £3 million additional or underspend, I said, actually what they are. So the underspends actually contributes to the earmarked reserves, and an element also contributes to the general reserves, if that helps.
Do you want to come back, Charles? Or?
Just wondering what the earmarked reserve is going to be. Which earmarked reserve are we talking about there, please?
I couldn't be specific on which earmarked reserve. There's the earmarked general reserve. Sorry, the earmarked reserve. Yeah.
Jane.
Yes, if I can, we do have we have an earmarked regeneration reserve that we can use for the key projects across the district. So that's the main one that we're utilising at the moment, and that's been established from things like additional business rates income. So we've said additional business rates income, we can justify putting that into a regeneration reserve. And can I just mention, on top of the underspends making it with 3 million, it's also additional income that we've received. So if we've had additional income on investments, additional car parking income. So I think maybe next year what we'll show is what the underspends are and what the additional income is, because I think they're clearly two very separate things, and it's great if we can get additional income in. And you're absolutely right, some of the underspends as such we wouldn't want to see, but if it is around the additional, like the waste, some of that may include additional garden waste customers, so it'd be good to show that. Thank you.
Good point. Yeah, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, all those in favour, please.
That's unanimous.
Now moving to item 9, Treasury Management Outturn. I will pass back to Councillor Stokes.
Thank you. Yes, again, this is another good report, and it's to bring to the executive's attention, because it is actually going to the Audit Committee on Friday. The items I draw your attention to are the bank balances, which does show that it is reduced by £3 million at the year end, although it actually brings in a net additional income brought in £6 million worth of revenue against that bank balance, as opposed to 4.9 million on a higher bank balance the year before. Also, the CCLA Property and CCLA Cautious Multi-Asset Fund, I was investigating that, and whilst it does identify in the table a reduction in the investment, that isn't a realistic picture. What will happen is we receive quarterly dividends, which obviously are based on a quarterly revenue and come into the revenue. However, the actual asset value or the investment will return to the investment point should we wish to withdraw it. So as soon as it does go back into the market, or we wish to bring it back into Wychavon, we tell the CCLA, they assess and reevaluate the fund, and we are hardly likely to lose, and we would not withdraw it should it not meet its initial investment value. So I'm actually pleased to propose the recommendations on page 65 in 2.1. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Birch.
Thank you, Leader. I'm more than happy to second this. I'm sure that Councillor Hardman and the rest of the Audit Committee will enjoy getting their teeth stuck into this on Friday. It shows a relatively positive cash position. We are considerably better off than a lot of other councils up and down the country. I think the only thing we need to be careful of is which of those councils we're lending to, especially with some of the pressures on SEND and adult social care. You want to be careful who you're giving your money to at the moment. But overall, it seems that we're doing a very good job, and it's credit to Alice, Jane and the team for all their hard work. I look forward to hearing what the Audit Committee have to say.
Thank you. Any questions at all? No. So really good.
Sorry, Leader, there's no vote required. It's just for noting.
You can keep your hands down. So thank you. We'll just note that. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, air quality supplementary planning document. Councillor Kersey.
Leader, thank you. I think this is probably the driest planning document that I've been able to speak to. Everybody knows how animated I am about planning and how passionate I feel about it, but this somewhat restricts me. This is fundamentally a supplementary planning document. This will be used in line with SWDP 31. It's worth noting that, as per the report, this will be used against the SWDP. When we move forward and adopt the SWDPR, we will need to go out to consultation so that that is in line with the SWDPR. So this is basically, we've gone out to consultation so that this can be used across all, the councils in connection with SWDP 31, but it's certainly worth noting that we will need to go forward with this with the SWDPR. It just gives really a clarity, as any supplementary planning document does, and aids us with the decisions, as you can see from the report, in all the different areas that it aids us fundamentally in line with the SWDP. So on that basis, I propose recommendation at 2.1 and 2.2.
Thank you. I think 2.1 is for noting, 2.2 is the recommendation. Councillor Hardman.
I happily support that, and just to say it's also useful guidance for developers, this paper. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Birch.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say that it does serve a very useful purpose, especially in Councillor Della's patch. Only a couple of months ago, air quality came into it quite considerably in terms of a planning application decision, which is currently heading to appeal and will be decided on in early September. And without this sort of information, we would very, very much struggle to defend that appeal and very much struggle to fight it in the way that we very much intend to do.
Good point. Councillor Day.
Yeah, I mean, I fully support what Councillor Birch has just said. And, you know, I think that application was in an area where we do have air quality issues, or we have had in the past. You know, I think actually this is something we should get passionate about, actually, Councillor Kersey, because something like 1 in 20 deaths in Worcestershire are linked to air quality pollution. It's a silent killer that we don't really recognise in our midst. And unfortunately, it seems to me as though you have to prove the case before any planners will take any view of it, particularly if we don't have a 5-year land supply. You know, my understanding is if you don't have the 5-year land supply, then you've got to demonstrably show that there's a significant and unmitigatable impact on health, which I think should be possible. And this is really where I was going, you know, if we are active about having some monitoring in that area. I think if we know that we're facing a challenge from developers, if we've got pins, which frankly I think are quite compliant with the current government in trying to build, you know, I think it's up to us to actually make the investment in getting some kit out there and finding out what is the air quality like on that side of the motorway where that development was going to be. And then making the case for saying that living in an environment like that in social housing is not really good enough, and that we would expect us to find in our many green acres somewhere that was just a little bit safer and a little bit better for those families who are living in those places, you know, not out of choice, but because that's where they've been put. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kersey.
Leader, thank you. Yes, probably to give further explanation if that's needed. This isn't reinventing the wheel. All of the planning documents and policies already look at all of these areas. This is simply a supplementary planning document that has been revised that is used in line with SWDP 31. So this isn't that we're suddenly starting to look at this sort of thing. This is a revised document that we've gone out to consultation, and you can see the changes and revisions that have taken place. You know, we're absolutely not changing anything, and the application, as Councillor Birch highlighted, that we looked at in Councillor Della's ward, if you look through this report in detail and actually have that application in mind, we had a very, very detailed discussion at Planning Committee around that application. Whether the question is whether that falls outside of this or inside of it, as we can see in the report, it's used by developers, it's used by development plans, all of the different planning vehicles that we use. But yes, certainly this isn't reinventing the wheel. This is a new revised supplementary planning document that will be used for the remainder of the time of the SWDP.
Thank you. Any further comments? I actually think it's really good that we've got some guidance, because it often seems that we don't have anything that sort of supports what's good or bad in this situation. So I think that's really good. 1 point for noting, 1 point recommendation. All those in favour?
That's unanimous.
Sorry, Mike. UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So this is myself. You'll note that this is to provide a final report for the delivery of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Rural England Prosperity Fund for programmes April 2022 to March 2025. And I have to say, this has been a real, in my view, success for Wychavon, and provided a lot of opportunity and funding around our area. It was a replacement by the last government for the European Fund after Brexit. We had £4 million. We know that's been reduced. It was on the last executive board where we talked about the plans for the future being reduced to 1.3 million. There is a very disciplined process behind the scenes. I know it's not evident, but when our officers and panels and members put projects forward, then the officers complete forms. Those forms go to both myself and Ian Edwards. We both sign them off and then allocate the monies to support that initiative. We don't always agree either. It is quite a robust process. We have good discussions, trying to make sure there's consistency and a fair spread across the whole of Wychavon, from towns to rural areas, and making sure that we have initiatives that will bring value and support our residents in what they are doing. It underpins our work with the town prospectus and the place boards. It's jet propelled our place boards to deliver place improvements, whether solar lights in parks, town flags, banners, supports the events and shop front improvements. It's helped improve our centres and helped our economic activity and success in Pershore, Evesham and Droitwich and wider. It has supported the Worcestershire Business Growth Hub. Some of the money gets allocated into county to support the Growth Hub, but we get that money back because out of all the areas we have the most startups, the largest number of businesses in Wychavon than any other district. And that money goes to support business startup, growth programs, business advice, apprenticeships, career advice, and skills development. Support is also there with the rural work and the rural fund, and we've seen support for rural businesses to refurb and expand, development in the provision of community halls, supporting the visitor economy, and supporting community groups. And I'd sincerely like to thank all members for their work in the panels, putting ideas forward and commitments, and those co-optees that we have on the panels as well, to support the ideas and the work going forward. But in particular, our officers for moving the request forward so diligently so that the projects and initiatives can be delivered and bring wider value. It's not just the grant or the money, it's the benefits that it brings to our residents, our workers and our visitors. This work to me epitomises Wychavon and Conservative leadership. So I really support it. Do I have a seconder, please? And I believe that is Councillor Rob Adams.
Thank you, Leader. You mentioned several times then the word success, and what a tremendous success this has been. I mean, wherever you live in Wychavon, the length and the breadth, you will have benefited through this money. I mean, you look there and look at the number of schemes that are listed there in the appendix. Fantastic, and fantastic news tonight. I don't know why you're all not smiling. You're deeply into this meeting. I know at the start of this meeting the girls were up 2-0, was it?
Yes,
you told me 2-0, our Lionesses. So you know, let's get behind them.
They've had 2 since.
Oh, 2 since. Right. Okay. I second the recommendation. The leaders dealt with this extremely well, and I agree with him. We can put our ideas up here as members for different things and all the rest of it, but it's our officers that then take it forward and work with us so we can get the very best. And the schemes and the amount of money that has been involved with this, it has taken up a great deal of officers' time, and I thank them, and I thank the members that sat on the panels. So just to second the recommendation, and also just to note at 5.2, if I can find it, that it does fit in with our policies there, the council priorities there, or proposals aligned with one or more of the council's strategies, aims and ambitions, as outlined within the people, place and environmental priorities in the new Wychavon strategy. It's always nice to bring what we do and the way we allocate money and that sort of thing back to our strategy. So with that, I then second, as I said before, the recommendation, which is for noting.
Thank you, Rob. And you do right to bring out the council priorities as well, because it does align so well. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I think we've made a great use of this money over the past few years. To indulge me for a second, just some of the initiatives that we've taken over in terms of my neck of the woods over towards North Clainston and then Droitwich. We've had over £100,000 across the district in active travel initiatives, which has included the improvement of pathways around the Lido, which was started by Councillor Emma Stokes, who took a walk around with one of my residents to discuss those pathways. And I'm hopeful this isn't the end, and we're still arranging with Tim, our head of client services, to discuss how we can continue to expand that. So the goal is to fully utilise the space and ensure it's safe and accessible for everybody to enjoy walking. And that's testament to the start in progress that we've made through the Shared Prosperity Fund. And perhaps Councillor Morris is too humble to mention it, but of course we invested £75,000 to help facilitate the new pedestrian crossing along the A38 by the Westlands estate, and without this funding and the tenacity of Councillor Morris and Councillor Rouse, who was a cabinet member at the time, then this project wouldn't have happened. The rest of the funding was reliant on this nudge that we were able to give along with the county council. And it's worth noting that just this week residents referred to that project as one of the few things that Highways got right. One of the few projects that they believed Highways truly got spot on. So it really is testament to the money that we were able to put into that. And the appointment of dedicated place-based officers over in Droitwich, we've got Gemma, who, and with the support of Patrick, they're doing a great job in terms of getting some of our projects, some of the ideas that were first discussed in this chamber off the ground. And the place boards themselves have played a vital role in energising our town. In Droitwich alone, they've been able to fund new festoon lighting along the high street, fresh street art around the town centre, including a mural on the side of the Talbot pub, and one currently in the works on the side of M's Haberdasheries. We've been able to add lighting to the Lido, making the pathways more accessible thanks to increased visibility and making the area more attractive. And inspired by that success, we've gone on to do the exact same thing in Vines Park in Droitwich, which now looks equally brilliant. But of course, these projects were all delivered by the Place Board, are all supported by the Place Board, with our backing as this council. But one of their biggest projects to date, which is the work on the Lido redevelopment, it was the money that the UK Shared Prosperity Fund was able to fund, and the work that they put in to do the design, the vision statements, the feasibility studies, to really get that project on the ground. And as a proud trustee and executive board member for Wychavon Leisure, and of course as a county councillor for the Lido site, I'm committed to making sure we deliver that design that was so passionately supported by our town in the consultation works, and I can't wait to see it happen. So, of course, thank you to all of the work that's been put in by officers, and thank you to our place boards who continue to do a brilliant job to utilise this shared prosperity fund money. And fingers crossed the government in the future might look to increase it back to the figure that it's around now, so we can continue to deliver some of these brilliant projects going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. I doubt that somehow. Councillor Dowler.
Thank you, Leader. As you can see from the appendices, Councillor Birch has already highlighted, there are tons and tons of incredible investments that we've made. But if you forgive me, Leader, I would like to talk to one that's not on this list. Because I want to look at what the impact or the wider impact, and quite often the areas that are unseen. So as I mentioned, at the last committee meeting or the last communities meeting, the next round was allocated, and one of those is the Wick Care Farm. Those of you who, I don't know if anyone has come across the Wick Care Farm, but it supports those with dementia, and as you may have heard me speak before, my father has dementia, and he's been going there for nigh on 6 years. And the reason I bring it up now is because sadly yesterday was his last day there. But why is this important? So we've given them money for a quiet room, so a quiet space for the guests there. But the impact this has is not just on those that are attending, the impact that will have, but on the wider impact. So the fact that because we're investing into places like this, that my mum, who's dad's primary carer, was able to make friends with people there and build relationships. So by an investment over here, we're seeing an impact over here. It's quite remarkable, and the same can be said for a lot of these other projects, whether it's investment in football clubs or as already alluded, the investment in the A38, which is now being completed, which is allowing people to be more active and be able to travel. So I think it's amazing we look at on the surface level where the money goes, but I think it's the impact that this money has on the unseen side, I think is the biggest impact for this.
Brilliant, Rick. You always talk so well. Thank you. Councillor Linda Robinson.
Thank you, Leader. As Chairman of the Rural Panel, I was delighted to see this coming forward today. The Wychavon Rural Fund has provided applicants with £769,771 for 52 enterprises, but even more importantly, this has enabled a £1,511,294 total project costs spent for rural communities, which is significant. Often, it is much harder to raise funds for the rural area than in the towns, and yet Wychavon is predominantly rural, and it's important, I think, that we remember that. Leader, you did it, but I'd like to second it, that I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the officers, our members, and also our co-optees. Certainly on the rural panel, we've been very, very lucky with the quality of co-optees and their knowledge of businesses and initiatives throughout our rural area. And everybody spends many hours sifting through the applications. We sort of look with trepidation at the applications because sorting them through, as Dan and Nick and I know, takes a good while, doesn't it? And thank you to the officers who help us through when it gets overcomplicated. Thank you all very much. And looking forward to it continuing, albeit on a slightly lesser basis.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Boatwright Green.
I think they've let you know that Emma wanted to speak, but I thought I'd better get in there just in case. I just wanted to kind of just explain the 200k for Pershore Place Board, and I'm not detracting in any way, shape or form what the Place Board have done or what our officers have done, but that 200k has been absolutely vital because it's taken us into places that we've always said we wanted to do, but have never really had the money. And we rely very heavily on our residents, our businesses and our volunteers. And it is a huge thank you to all of them who've been involved and helped us spend that money and actually get some really good projects for the town. But I just want to kind of refer to what is kind of very often known as Sad Christmas, which is December 2020, when we didn't necessarily have the right look about the town when you have incredibly old decorations and things are not looking particularly great. Then we had not quite so sad Christmas in December 2021. And it was at that point, thankfully, that's what actually got a lot of residents really kind of clued up on the fact that we need to do something. The town council, and particularly the staff at the town council, had really pushed quite hard to say, right, we need to make changes here. And it was really great to then be able to work with the Place Board, work with residents, work with our businesses to actually move that forward. Everything that's happened with this £200,000 has really been stretched far further than it would have gone otherwise if it wasn't for that volunteering, if it wasn't for our fantastic staff at the town council who have put so much time into doing all this and far more than they've been paid for. And one of the things I'll always point out is most of our councillors that you'll see in Pershore, you'll see them in a high-vis jacket before you see them shaking someone's hand. And I think that's something, a real testament to the town, is that we'll actually be out there making sure we don't have to pay for something so that we can make sure that actually we can spend the money elsewhere. So it's been great that the Place Board have been able to put this in, but I can safely say that that 200k has definitely been stretched within an inch of its life. And we're already talking about Christmas 2025, which is incredibly scary when we start thinking about it. But I know that there will be that continued commitment to making sure that we keep it to that standard, because no one really wants to go back to sad Christmas. Thank you.
No, point's well made, and I think that's echoed in the other towns as well. You know, all in terms of the place boards and fellow community groups volunteering to try and ensure that this money is also successful in everything that it's put to. Councillor Emma Stokes.
Yes, thank you. It's actually quite amazing. I went to the community and funding panel. I was invited by Councillor Adams, and it was absolutely amazing to hear the process and the diligence that goes into these reports and to these schemes coming forward, the commitment from the actual residents themselves, from the parish and the district, the parish councils, putting through these ideas, we being able to assist them actually creating a community, essentially a community fund, which they've been able to use. And on that day in June, it was actually a warm afternoon, we spent £400,000. And that was such a wonderful experience to be able to share that fund through 106 monies, which were, you know, for Breedon, for Inkborough, for Pershore Riverside, Saleway, Age UK Wyvern, that was section 106. Then Wick Care Farm, which Rick Deller has actually alluded to earlier on. Men in Sheds, absolutely brilliant. You know, to beat social isolation that you do get in such towns. Men in Sheds is a wonderful venture. I actually supported them financially in the Evesham branch, if that's the correct way to say it, through my divisional fund. They actually created benches or tabletops to go over the pews in the local church. It's things like that that just it just fills the gap for the community. And spending £400,000 in one afternoon, well, I'll do that again. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Paul Middleborough.
Thank you, Leader. Whilst things are sometimes put into silos, town and rural, I think it's always important to remember that the ones in the town actually benefit people in the rural areas, so that the money to Pershore Bowling Club was significant for people who live in Eckington and Defford, who are part of that club. But I just want to mention one of the schemes, or two of the schemes actually, the rural ones. Strensham is a little village with 300 people in the south east of Wychavon, rarely visited because it's quite hard to get there. And if you know one way to get there, there's another 10 ways to get there. They have a nice village hall, and that's been revamped with solar panels, and we've been talking about that earlier. And they've also had the playground equipment. 312 people. They've raised money to support the money from the Rural Fund, but actually getting the £66 per head of population has really been good, and it's something they'd never had for years and years, and they are really proud of that. Can I just be a bit controversial? I know we've got active travel on the things that have been done. I'd just say, I'm disappointed that the County Council haven't lived up to the things that we've been doing on active travel, and in particular, I'm talking about the entrance to the rear of the Parkway station, where the active travel corridor peters out at the railway bridge by a pub called The Retreat for about, I suppose it's 400 yards, and it's lethal to walk down there, pretty lethal to cycle down there, and heaven help anybody who's ever took a horse down there, but they won't be going to the station, will they? So I just hope that I draw attention to that, and Councillor Adams might be cross with me for doing that, because I think he's probably with me all the way. We aren't going to forget it, and I've told you about it. So if the opportunity comes for county councillors, please do something. But this is a great project, the schemes.
And I think that final point's something that we should write to the county on, and try and see if we can move forward in any way, because it's desperately needed, and with Parkway taking off, it's adds a lot of importance to it. Councillor Emma Kersey.
Leader, thank you. When Councillor Adams says that this has really touched every part of the district, it really, really has. I mean, when we talk about, Councillor Birch obviously speaks passionately about Droitwich, but every town has been involved. We've had events all across the district. We've had local markets in the towns, also in Broadway. But when we talk about reaching those places, as Councillor Middleborough said about Strensham, we've had a grant given to Morris Commercial in Hinton on the Green, and I can honestly say that I had lived there since I was 6 months old, and I didn't actually know at that point that Morris Commercial existed, and so it was very much put on the map as a result of our funding. So it really, really is truly fantastic. When Councillor Boatwright Green talks about people in the high vis and people getting involved, I think that's actually what happens. The wonderful work that's happened with our place boards in Droitwich, in Pershore and Evesham. I mean, there's some projects that have been transformational in Evesham, and I think what it does, it actually gives people a sense of community and a sense of place. So it therefore means that people want to get involved, and as you say about the miserable Christmas and then the transformation, that means that people want to get involved, that things are doing really, really well, and they want to get involved with these successful things. And to Councillor Robinson's point about the rural panel absolutely to be commended, because one of the challenges that we face, you can have grants and you can have them for specific purposes, but particularly when we talk about rural grants, and really across Wychavon as a whole, because of the demographics of Wychavon, it's all about the communication. And that's where the rural panel have done it, and all of our officers have done such fantastic work. Because communicating these grants and getting people to apply is the biggest challenge, really, to be able to get those grants to where they're needed. So Councillor Robinson is absolutely right. The work from the rural panel has been truly fantastic. I've been speaking to some businesses recently, and I had a very interesting conversation very recently with a small business, and I was talking to them about what they wanted to do with their business and the options and the challenges that they had. And I suddenly said, oh, the thing that would be absolutely perfect for you, the rural grant, and thanks to the rural panel and the communication of our officers, they confirmed to me that they'd already applied and they had their project in mind. So that was absolutely wonderful to hear. So it's really, truly touching every demographic of the district, and it's making a fantastic positive difference.
Thank you. And I must say I had a really good day at Morris Commercial.
Yes.
Sat in a Morris van with a Morris number plate. I was in my element. Councillor Nick Wright.
I just want to say that having been a member of the Rural Panel and the Community and Funding Panel, it is absolutely great fun to be on those panels. Somebody said it should bring a smile to your face, but actually the panels work very well. It's very good to give away other people's money, especially to good causes. And it has been a really good thing. And we start again shortly with some more for the rural grant. So I would absolutely applaud the officers and Wychavon for driving this forward. I'd love to see it carry on when Unitary Authority comes along.
Brilliant, thank you. Any further? Oh, Councillor Bev Hardman.
I think everybody's said how fantastic these are. The only thing I'd like to say is, can we advertise them more to everybody? I know we all push our own parishes, but a lot of parishes don't always think of what they can put the money to ask for, and they don't know about this. So I think it'd be useful to pick some of these and then let parishes know, because they don't always appreciate how wide an area we cover for grants.
And I think that's a good point. I hope we can do more promotion about the success of how UK shared prosperity funds being utilised. Any other speakers at all? Councillor Day.
I think everything's been said. I just wanted to add one thought, though, and that was that looking down the list, I think there's at least 16 village, parish or scout halls on that list, and they do a fantastic job in bringing communities together, and I think they're a great thing for us to support. Thank you.
No, brilliant. That's good. Okay, I think that's been a really good input. Thank you everyone who has, and to all our officers that have enabled this to happen. This is just for noting, so we pass it forward. So we move on to item 12, which is references from committees, and over to Councillor Rob Adams.
We're on a roll now with good news tonight. Let it continue. Let it continue. And with that, and the tremendous support from the Communities Panel with these recommendations to the board, all 106s, would you allow me to present them all together, Leader? Because there was a lot of support, or do you want me to take them individually?
No, all together is fine, Rob.
Okay, we'll run through them anyway. So the first one goes right the way back to our meeting on the 12th of May, would you believe? It just slipped through the net on various things there. And this was a 10C ask with a recommendation for tonight that £65,085 is allocated to Section 106 to the contributions reserved to the fund for the project. And this is one put through right the way back then from Honeybourne Parish Council to fund improvement for drainage on the sports field. So the sports and recreation ground at Honeybourne there, so some drainage work there. I'm not sure whether it just at the moment with the state of the ground would be needed. Surely as day follows night, we shall have some rain at some stage. So a good investment there once again into our sports there. And then coming back to our last meeting, so I move the recommendation there for that one to be accepted. And now I've got 6 going on which we dealt with at our last meeting. The first one being Breedon Parish Council for an ask of £4,556.48. And that was the Breedon one, was an outdoor table tennis at their playing fields there. So I find I'm seeing more and more of these outdoor table tennis there. I thought people always wanted to be inside, but that's not the case. It's not the case. So that was the ask on the Breedon one, and then moving on to the sporting club at Inkbarrow, and that recommendation was for £31,021, and that was to install a 2 permanent 2-lane fully enclosed cricket net structures on land at Sandy Road in Inkbarrow. Was there doing a bit of a film shoot with Ian Dipple the other day on the trying to promote the girls' football, which they're doing extremely well tonight. So we've got to keep cheering for those. But it was nice to see the little ones that evening there, and the shirts were longer than what they were tall, really. They seemed to be running around the 4 to 6 year olds, but they were all enjoying it. So you've got the seniors there, and tremendous investment into that. As you know, since 2021, we've invested into this 3G football pitch over £5 million. So it was nice to see that one, and I know all the others are really well used. So that was the sporting club at Inkbarrow Ask. And then I move on to now, I mentioned Breedon Parish Council, on to the Riverside Centre, the youth centre down in the town here. There, if I can find my notes over that. This is then again bringing the building into up together a little bit more with the installation of 2 pieces of, oh sorry, that's well, wait a minute. I think the Riverside Centre was new windows and that sort of thing, if I can just find it again. Sorry? Oh, windows and flooring, sorry, yeah, okay. So that was an ask of 81,222.66 pence. Moving on to the Pinvin Parish Council, an ask of 165,385.02 pence. I'm really pleased with that because I went out to a photo shoot on this all some time ago now. They had a grant of 300,000, or could have had it, put out by the CLG, Community Legacy Grant, and for various reasons they didn't feel that they could carry on with that. A little bit of a disappointment, but the will was there, and I'm really pleased to see this coming forward for this ask of the 106 tonight. So well done to the people of Pinvin that have really stuck to what they wanted. It wasn't quite right at the time going back, but now it is. And I think sometimes you can try and progress these and the timing isn't right, or maybe the funding isn't coming together, but later on it can always perhaps come back, as this one has done, to try and get for what they want at Pinvin. So that was that one, and then the last one, I think I've dealt with them all now, is Sailway. This was for play equipment, and ask 106 of £3,415.87. So I think I've dealt with the 7 there. Tremendous support throughout Wychavon for our villages and towns, and it's nice to see that in a lot of cases it's supporting young people. Thank you.
Well done, Rob, and yeah, thank you. Great work again going to the community. This is going to be seconded by Councillor Rick Deller.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I think Councillor Adams has summed most of that up. What I think is key is these are projects led by the community. The community have asked for these. These are not centrally driven. These are driven by the parish or community groups. So I think that's where you have the biggest impact, when the community is asking for itself. The only one I would highlight would be the Sporting Club Inkborough one, looking at the installation of the 2 fully enclosed cricket net structures. I'm looking forward to an Ian Dipple photo shoot with Rob defending his wicket.
Any questions or comments? Board? No? Councillor Danbury Green? Sorry, Dan first.
Ordinarily, I'd want to talk about the Pershaw one, but I'm going to have to talk about the Pinvin one. Yeah, you're totally right, Rob. I mean, it has been, as a resident of Pinvin, I remember vaguely many years ago getting a survey around saying, what do we want, including a pickleball court, tennis, table tennis, actual tennis court, you name it, it was on there. And I think as a village, we've never really been entirely sure, A, how to apply for funding, and B, how to actually get it all together. And over the last few years, we've been really lucky to bring together a fantastic team of people who have really drilled into this. I do have to thank Robbie and Nick for proposing and seconding this, because I genuinely believe you would have been banished from Pinvin if you hadn't. But Tiffany, Karen and the team in particular have really spent so many hours on this, making sure we can apply for funding. It's not just this funding, it's also the fact we've applied for lottery funding and we've got it. We've managed to get seven waste to fund parts of it as well. We've had funding from numerous companies and organisations. There have been so many applications that have gone out. Some we have not been so successful, but remarkably, most of them we have been. And we are looking, well, we stood there outside last night on the grass where they had marked out where the building was going to be. And it was a very weird moment for some of us who don't usually get particularly emotional about these things, but it was the realisation actually of just how stressful this had been trying to get to this point. So it's really exciting. It's something that we are really happy that we're going to be moving towards, and it means we're going to have some amazing sporting facilities that people will be able to tap into that most villages don't have, which we're quite excited about. And I need to thank the FA as well, because if they're watching, they have given us quite considerable money for this as well. So it's been a lot of people, and so we're almost there. We're almost there. I actually weirdly think that, I know everyone keeps telling me it's not, but actually getting to this point has been, I do feel it's been the hardest part. I don't care what anyone else tells me at this point.
Well done. Obviously, the long journeys sometimes are the best journeys. Councillor Mark Ward.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm a recent chairman of this particular panel, and it was a real pleasure to chair this particular meeting. And I think Councillor Dell has mentioned, it is community-based and community-led as a consequence of development and 106 contributions. And it was a real pleasure to be able to support and the community to be able to spend the monies that they have been given as a consequence of development. So it's a real pleasure to have that meeting and propose these recommendations. And it was a real pleasure, as I said, to spend the 106 monies that, as a consequence of development, communities have been given, and to provide community assets for the long term is excellent. So it's an enjoyable panel, and I think it's work well done. So I'm pleased that it's been recommended and proposed. Or noted, shall we say, but the fact that we spent the monies in this entirety for the various projects is a pleasure, not leaving it back in the 106 pot, as it were. So to spend it all in the areas that were affected by the development is excellent. Thank you.
No, that's a good point. We want to spend Section 106 monies. Councillor Liz Tucker.
Thank you. Very happy to endorse the positive remarks that have been made about the use of 106 monies, and of course especially for Pinvin, which has gone through a long and difficult time from an imaginative and impractical planning permission to something that we can actually make work. But the point I wanted to make was that we've got 2 more budgets, I think, to go through before we extinguish ourselves. And it would be very useful for us all and the parishes to be reminded of what 106 resources there are in their particular parish. And I think that would help them make sure that they worked on constructive suggestions within their area, rather than some of it falling off the pole at the end of time because we hadn't worked it out.
I think that's a really good point. I'll pass to Councillor Emma Kersey.
Leader, thank you. Can I just endorse Councillor Boatwright Green's comment that the FA are watching? I hope they are, because it's going to send our YouTube views through the roof and probably be the most watched exec board meeting ever at Wychavon. So we can only hope that, that the FA are not watching the Lionesses and instead they're watching our exec board. So I know, but they might have swapped over for that point. Yeah, perfect timing. The Section 106 monies, everybody's absolutely right. There's no way that we ever want a penny of that to go back to the developers, because obviously when they were initially awarded, they were for specific reasons. And as we know, they need to meet specific criteria. I've had communication recently with Heather Peachy, because certainly in my own ward, I'm very, very close to that to make sure that not a penny is ever sent back to a developer. And I make sure that every penny is spent where it's supposed to be of Section 106 money. Very much take your point on board. Some parishes, it can slip through the net, dependent upon how accurate or whatever they are with it. So Heather, it does actually send reminders to parishes, and she is actually tightening up that structure so that it actually tells people what it's earmarked for, but also the dates that it needs to be used by, because some don't have an end date on them, but some have a very specific end date. And obviously if it's not used for its purpose by that time, then sadly it does go back to the developers. And we are talking substantial money across the district, and in some parishes who don't necessarily realise what's awarded to them. But yes, Heather is actually making sure that she puts the deadlines on all of those Section 106 monies to make sure that as much of it as possible is used.
That's very positive, but could we also get it circulated to the ward councillors as well?
Yes, certainly from my point of view, I always make sure that I know all the money that is due to be spent in my ward. So it's sent to the parish clerks, but from my point of view, I always make sure what money is nominated across my ward.
Well, we'll take that back. It's a good point. We'll take it back. Thank you. Councillor Emma Stokes.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Day referred earlier on to a blockage regarding the walkway between Evesham Town Centre and the Valley. And this is one of the things. It's a Section 106. And it's the wording of the 106 and the combination of the 106 that actually have sort of whilst wanting it, the wording of it has actually sort of stymied other actions, and it's making the best use of the money within the allowable permissions that was on the original 106 funding, because the last thing we want to do is ever hand money back to the developer, but it's making sure that we can spend it in the required way without incurring penalties, and to deliver a good walkway between the town centre and the Valley, which has always been your criteria, and it is very important for the strength of the town that happens. It's just making it work. So I was very surprised to actually see it still on the Capital Projects Board for discussions, and this is why I've actually now got down to it and said, right, what is the criteria of the Section 106 for that particular blockage? And I'm hoping to work forward. So thank you for that question, Councillor Day.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, so we need to take a vote on this. So all those in favour?
That's unanimous.